main role in step 1 and step 2 is to try and burn out as many resources as possible. So that way, when it gets to the team fight, as mentioned, Risk now become more brawly.
Yes.
We should be up in abilities advantage.
Yes. Now, this is just talking about the winning phase of the fight. If you guys do manage to reach, if you guys, say, for instance, are on the losing phase of the fight, this is where you kind of do either decide whether you decide to die on a point or you decide to back away to conserve your life so that way your healers can still get ult charge. Maybe you can like try to go for a recontest. Um, and it's basically just kind of trying to negate the it's trying to negate the amount of potential that the enemy team, the fact that it's trying to negate the how am I saying this right? It's trying to negate the amount of potential like push. It's trying to negate the amount of potential push that the enemy team will try to push onto you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
So that way, instead of them being able to constantly get more ult charge into your team and killing more of your teammates, you manage to back your team out, and you have like a little bit more survivors. Like you may have lost a fight, but you fed the enemy less than what they could have had. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like either a team fight wipe or, lose to, but still not give them as much ult charge as they could have had.
Yes. Pretty much.
Okay.
Um.
So it's 3 steps. Setup is where you drain cooldowns, get more damage, blah, blah, blah. Step 2 is the break point, where ability use, shield is breaking. And step 3 is either a win or a loss. Win, you play aggressively. Loss, you either die on point or back out.
Yeah. So like basically, how you play phase one is pretty much like heavily affects how you play phase two. The more better you play phase one is basically depends on whether you win or lose in phase two.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
The first time I've ever explained something so cleanly, fluidly, and just perfectly, I'm actually getting chills from the fact that I did that. As a guy who's been kind of coaching for a month, about like trying to coach golds for a month, I've been like fucking stuttering and shit. So the fact, oh, this is nice. This is a nice shield placement. I like this right here. Yeah, you see, this is like talking about the 3/4 shield. If you're like used to doing this, you can like get more line. You can extrude more line of sight. You can get more. You can peek out even more and like get more potential. So yeah. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, so kind of two things I noticed you don't have here. The first is kind of like your usual habits. I noticed that you don't have a habit of immediately looking for information. Like you have a shield that extrudes out to a line of sight, and whenever you can like get line of sight on the enemy, it's especially important if you can get a line of sight onto like if there's widows on this map. Because kind of like the reoccurring theme on King's Row where people so would sometimes play Widow on this map.
mm-hmm.
This is yeah, exactly. So this is where you as Orisa can come in, or if you're a Reinhardt, you can extrude the shield out. You can like shield outwards and try to like see if you can get any sort of like far line of sight, just to collect information about what their composition is, to see if they have a widow or not, if they're running a death ball or dive. Like it's quite important. It's quite important that you gather information before phase one, because right now you're not even in phase one. You're just right now like waiting for the enemy team to come and engage you. You're like
Okay.
pre-phase. So yeah, so it's important that you scout information, know what their enemy team composition is, so that way you can react more properly even earlier. So it's kind of like just basic. So it's like being one step ahead of the enemy, you know.
Actually, I have a question about Arista's shield placement then.
Okay.
So the question I have is, how far back should Arista position herself? Because obviously, yes, you want as much distance as possible to get, um, that Ryan versus Arista, much distance the better it is. But
Mm-hmm.
just like human me in the sense of, if I set up on the red phone box, why is that a bad position or a good position versus why I set up beforehand?
Red phone box? Wait. Oh,
The
red phone box. I heard
uh,
foam as in FOAM.
no, no.
Yeah. So the reason why the red. Okay. It's kind. So this may sound incorrect. The reason why this position may sound bad to you is not because the reason you might think, and that's because it plays back in a very shitty. It barely controls any part of the map. As a Rissa, you want to
Yeah.
control. You want to have some sort of control. like looking at this phone box, it only controls this small area, and over here, your teammates would only have this small area to play in. Kind of a shitty cramped area. Like, what can like imagine four people just being stuffed over there and just trying to shoot from there, right? Imagine how shitty that's
Hmm.
gonna be. And this is the reason why you would see some Orisas like hold their shield over here because your teammates have a much more bigger space to work around. They have a mini over here. They also have a flank option. They have the option to retreat. Um, and if you have like some mobile heroes that have like vertical mobility, they can go up here and maybe probably go up here because your shield kind of extrudes to here. And
Hmm.
and that's kind of like the importance about having Orisa shields is you want to know you want to be is whenever you place on an Orisa shield, you want to make sure that this shield um, protects a space that you want to make sure your shield protects a space, and that space you're protecting, you want to make sure you protect a space that is good for your teammates.
Yeah.
This space right over here is not good for your teammates because it's a small, cramped, and there's not much options for your teammates. This space right over here is much more better because now your teammates have more options and have more better options to do things. They have more rotations, they have retreat pathways, they have flank options, flank routes, and they can still even play main. So
Okay.
yeah.
So with that positioning then, so because in my head I'm thinking now, so Orisa wants to obviously hold space with her shield, so that way her teammates can obviously move around from there.
Mhm.
Now,
You're saying?
you suggested beforehand that Reinhardt would be a better option here.
Yes.
So like if I play along that thought, where Ryan obviously has a 2,000 HP barrier, and he wants to play up pretty much close to get the most value out of his hammer and most value for his team.
Mhm.
Now, if we're looking along the lines of depleting resources and stuff, is the reason why some people start what I started beforehand as Ryan, but almost purposely kite around the hotel to bait out some abilities and then push hard in? Or is that not the right way to play Ryan?
Wait, can you try to repeat that real quick again? Like, repeat, like, the
Sure.
last 20 seconds you were speaking.
No, my thought process is draining out resources.
Mm-hmm.
So with Ryan, if I set up where I was with Arissa now and try and get as many abilities out as possible, almost allow them to come into me so that way we can rotate down the alleyway slash hotel side. And hopefully in that particular rotation, I've forced out as many cooldowns as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see if we had Lucio and save all our bubbles as if we're playing goats. And then we go aggressive. Is that the right way to play Ryan, or should you be almost aggressive from the very start?
So, I'm just gonna say that there's no right or wrong decision making. There's no such thing as this is the correct answer and this is the wrong answer. There's only good decisions and bad decisions and godly decisions. Like,
Okay.
okay, maybe there's like maybe a fourth, like say for instance if I was to create a diamond, there's like good, bad, and then there's God, and then you got this. This is what keeps you in bronze. We got these bronze decisions.
Hmm.
Whether you what your thought process creates is what basically determines your decision making. So like you were basically saying, like how you were setting up, you would basically retreat as Ryan, you would try to bait out as much cooldowns as possible. Like that's your play, that's your idea, that's your thought process, and then you decide to do the execution. It's a nice play. It's an effective play. It does, and if it works, it's great for you. However, if it doesn't work, there might have been something else that would have gone on because sometimes plays always don't work well, but it's depend
Hmm.
and sometimes it's not and it doesn't really like connect really to if we had the wrong decision making, whether we made like a thought process mistake. Sometimes it's also based on our execution. Like if did we properly execute this? Did we kind of like were we a little jagged with trying to pull something off and it went slower or more shakier and maybe it was like less effective? Like was your execution very effective to where you got like tons of value out? Like
Hmm.
stuff like that. So your whether your decision making is like good or bad, like don't think of it as a don't think of it as a wrong correct decision. Think of it as like is this a good play or not? It's to me in my opinion, this sounds like a really good play. It's just that whenever you're playing the game, you got to always remember. You got to remember and you got to think is this is this a good play? Will this work? Will they have any sort of counterplay? And that's a very important question to know. This is why game sense is quite important. And that's
Okay.
this is you gotta know, what is the enemy gonna have counterplay to. If I was to say, for instance, make this decision, and then they make some sort of decision that kind of that doesn't make your decision like super effective. Like, say for instance, your fucking decision was like a 10 out of 10. Holy shit, this works so well. But next thing you know, you start playing against good opponents, and then now all of a sudden your decision's like, oh, it's a rating 6 out of 10. You know?
Yeah.
Now you gotta start thinking, okay, this decision is kind of like a 6 out of 10. How can I possibly bring this up to a 9 out of 10, or maybe even a 10 out of 10, you know? Because we're making decisions 24/7. So it's about like whether if we can just try to make sometimes we make mediocre decisions and then slowly try to build it up and to try and make it better decisions, but then sometimes it might fall down and we might just, oh no, 2 out of 10, and then we lose the game. I mean, we lose the fight, and it's like reset, you know? So
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Any more questions?
Nah, cool. I'm listening. I'm keen to listen.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you have any comment about what I said? Would you like to share anything about what I said?
I guess then, like you said beforehand, in any kind of split decision, it might look like a 10 out of 10, but there's so other many variables where, let's say, if you're playing against a team who weren't that high skilled, and they kind of made a lot of mistakes, and then you kind of view it as it was your play that won it versus it was their misplay that made your play look good. So then the higher you get, and you suddenly realize that actually my play wasn't that great because it was against people who were playing versus someone who, let's say,
no, it's
like
more
Ryan.
More formidable, yeah.
Yeah, exactly from that.
They start playing better, yeah, exactly. And this is like kind of the reason why metas exist, is because people sometimes can even like through the most smallest balances, people will sometimes take advantage of the most smallest advantages, and they'll just like abuse the hell out of it, and that's where they'll just basically play the most perfect player ever. They'll make the perfect moves. They'll be the most craziest player you would have ever seen, like fucking solid decision making, super effective. You see his execution, he's just getting kills left and right. He's putting out so much pressure, draining so much cooldowns, and the best part is that he's not dying. Like, that's such a good player right there, so formidable. And what was I talking about again? Oh no,
You're talking about
what was I talking about 20 seconds ago? My brain farted.
Formidable opponents, how your 10 out of 10 play is actually a 6 out of 10. How can I make this play better in the next time to make it a 9 out of 10? That's what you're saying anyway.
Yeah, and so, yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, and sorry, I was talking about metas. Like, sometimes people will abuse it, and then they'll just play the most perfect stuff. Like, here in Orisa, you have to, if you're playing against incompetent opponents, and your opponents were just easy, they blundered, they made mistakes, and you're just like, raw, I punish you, and then they lose the fight, then you're only losing against, like, people who have a weakness of not thinking, or knowing how to play the game, like, really good. That's like you're playing against bad opponents. However, sometimes you may come across people who are just like, well, hold on, I'm not falling for that trick. And they're going to be like, I'm not going to play this aggressive. I'm not going to let you bait me out. Or, like, I'm not going to let you outmatch me in this. Like, there's many reasons why people would lose. Sometimes people fall for bait. They fall for traps. They just get outmatched by someone else. They sometimes get outskilled, outdueled, and they just like lose duels just because the other player is just more better in skill. Sometimes the other player is just more better in terms of conserving resources or just better at their execution. Like, that's sometimes reasons why people lose and win. So yeah, let's continue on to the VOD. We finally get. It's only been 11 seconds and we talked about a lot of stuff here.
Nah, cool. I like it.
I know, I like it too. Oh, that was funny. That Tracer was like, I'm trying to get out, and that Roadhog was like, no, bitch.
Nice.
That was like a fucking horror movie right there. Oh, wait, let's look at something over here. It looks like you didn't expect your shield to fall down instantly. Let's look at this.
Nice.
Ah, I see. Okay. So, another thing I noticed with your Orisa play too is that you don't keep track about your shields. So, did you know that after 20 seconds, your shield will disappear, even though if it didn't take any damage?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the right question to have, but I know that when I play a Rishta shield, I'll try and keep my shield up for as long as physically possible. So I'll even let it go down to, let's say, 50 or 80 if I know it's going to be still up. And then when I see it's about to break, or if I can see something coming to break my shield, I'll then put it down. So I might have just potentially misread that. If that's how I think anyway with the Rishta shield.
Yeah. Yeah, because you kind of missed, you kind of, like, didn't keep track of, like, the last time you put down your shield. It's quite obvious that the last time you put down your shield was at 3:40, let's see, 20 seconds. You put it down just right before the match started, like 1 second before the match started, and it looks like you didn't keep track of, well, I don't know, maybe this is just maybe a late reaction, like, you probably reacted, like, a second too late, because you kind of don't want to have a downtime for your shield when your shield, like, automatically breaks because it's at its expiration date, and then you're just like, oh shit, no, I gotta, like, reset. You're like, you don't want to be caught out like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just going to assume that you didn't keep track of your
shield up.
your
Hold
shield
ready.
expiration.
Firing down main. Is your hook ready? Is your hook ready?
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Firing main.
Oh,
Yeah,
sexy. Oh no, the Warhawk couldn't get the kill. That's unfortunate.
He's low.
Oh, I don't like this reload.
There's up. Flanking round. Behind.
Pulse ready. You ready?
No. I'm behind you.
Someone is behind us. Someone.
This execution was a little weird. So, did you kind of keep track of where? Okay, another thing. It looked like you and Hog. It looked like you and Hog were on the same page. However, once you like threw out your pool, the Hog and you weren't on the same page apparently, because the Hog was behind you playing against Hotel and something, and then you were just like, I'm gonna go pull somebody by statue, but then he doesn't even know that you're pulling somebody by statue. It's just like, I'm focusing on people in the hotel.
Someone's
And then you
behind
get
you.
this uncoordination where the Hog
I'm right to right.
I think what happened was I saw that he used hook, and I remember seeing him that he used hook on the corner of my eye. So I just kind of went for the pull anyway.
So basically you're trying to you're basically trying to increase the chances of him hooking, yeah? So like by pulling people into his hook, yeah? As he threw it out.
That's what I was trying to do. But in that particular situation there, I might have, well, looks like I had misplayed anyway in terms of poor usage of my hold. But when I saw the Mercy res, I'm thinking maybe I could pull her out to stop her from resing, but obviously the res still went off.
Yeah, you're a little too late there. Your reaction to the Mercy was like bad. Your reaction to the Mercy was slow enough, but the fact that it took time for you to like travel that hook, I mean not the hook, the pull, and then for you to like pull the Mercy away, like, and then for the Mercy like being in the pull distance, like the time it takes, the Mercy had way too big of a time window to have res that far out there. Like I wouldn't have even like went for that pull because I was like, nope, too late, and then I'm just gonna like look for a better pull where I can possibly get a pick.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Another thing I also see over here is your ability usage. Do you realize, did you mean to, like, fortify here, or was it just, like, maybe scuffed execution accident kind?
Yeah, so I think when I was watching this VOD anyway, what I do realize is that I'm using my 45 far too early because I think the fact that it's probably the wrong move in hindsight, but whenever the hammer went straight onto me, I was like, not panicked, but I just pressed it anyway. So I can see how that is a waste of resources because the wrist is fortified. It's a get out of jail card if I use it far too early in the fight. Very similar to like
plus
either use my micro too early. But that's the kind of mindset I have now looking at the VOD.
Mm-hmm. So one thing you probably, since it sounds like it's more of a mindset thing, maybe what you can do to work on yourself is to start adjusting your mindset a bit. Maybe like just try to take a little bit chill, allow yourself to kind of like slowly get threatened, like maybe like take a little bit, maybe like dip your toe a little more deeper in danger, like just kind of feel the danger a bit more, so that way you're not as afraid or scared to where they just throw out an ability and then you just like fortify because you're like, oh no, I got fucking slammed, I'm scared, and you're just like, it's nothing, you know, like you just like let loose kind of thing, you know.
Okay, so have a mindset of
like just
allowing.
Yeah, like just relax on your mindset a little. Like try to keep it lessen the tense of trying to stay alive.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You may die for it sometimes, but that's what like practice is for. Is like just It's like, oh no, what went wrong here? Oh, I was probably a little too slow. Maybe if I was just a little faster, then it would have been good, you know?
It's like, I suppose, staying as Winston in a fight and then realizing when to jump out to make sure you don't necessarily
Yeah,
burn your ability too soon.
yeah, sometimes you might end up getting killed for some things as Orisa before you use your Fortify, because sometimes you might be too slow of a character, because you might be too slow in your APM. Do you know what APM means?
Action per minute.
Yeah, action per minute. So sometimes you might be a little too slow on your APM, you might have too slow reactions, and you're just like, oh shit, I got killed before I could react, and you're just like, oh shit, I should have like reacted quicker so that way I would have lived, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. This was a bit too early of a shield here.
Nice.
I was worried about the Pharah hitting me above, so I didn't know where she was. I can see her now, obviously, but I didn't know where she was. So I just put it down and kind of just went to bunker inside. That was my mindset, that particular situation.
Yeah, so it seems like even your mindset not only affected your Fortify, but it also affected your shield placement too.
Nice.
Like, it even affected, like the timing of your
Hold
shield,
it down,
which is,
main.
like,
Oh,
kind
no.
of mediocre. Also, you're not shooting
So,
a
in that-
lot. You're like, what you seem to do is you just kind of just don't... I'm guessing, like, you take a lot of time trying to aim with Orisa, and during this time you're, like, taking all this time to aim, you're just not shooting people. And you're kind of doing less in the fight. An Orisa that doesn't shoot in the fight is kind of technically just a shield bot at that point, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. What were you going to say earlier? I heard you were going to say something earlier.
So it's not Pharah, but it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Can I get healing?
Yeah, on it.
Hammond attack. I'm down. Play
yeah.
safe, stay behind the shield.
Yeah.
Hunter got me.
Watch
Low,
out
low.
for-
Para is right
This is a good rotation. Oh, no, you're walking out.
side.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God, you're so confident.
Haven't.
You kind of let that Hammond really just try... You really let that Hammond just, like, pile drive you in the most worst positions ever. Like, you let him pile drive you while you were... Pile drive you in, like, this position right here, putting you above your shield, then instead of trying to rotate to a more cover kind of thing, so that way when he did pile drive you, you would have been behind cover and you would have gotten less shot. So,
For me, the reason why I backed out, went back in, because I was thinking about contesting objective. That's why I kind of stayed in the corner there, hence why you saw me rotating back out and then back in, because I was just worried about if I wasn't on the point and my shield wasn't there ready, I wouldn't be able to contest the objective. That was my thought process there anyway.
okay, that was your thought process, but you're so worried about not contesting the point that you had to stay there, risk yourself, even though there was a Roadhog right over there, and you know Roadhog, he's another tank. He can contest point. He has a shield with
Okay.
him. And you already threw your shield out, so it's like so you don't have to like worry for another 5 seconds until for your shield to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Oh, nice pull. Oh no!
That's
Unfortunate pulse. Oh no. Okay, yeah.
There's a Hammond left side, I think. Hammond's on point.
Attack.
A little too early on the pull. What I would have waited for is that I would have waited for him to slam down, and then when he tried to move away, then I would have like thrown out my pull and then pulled him back in, so that way he would have been put back into the same place he was like slammed, and it would have kept him a little more still. So I feel like you didn't stack. So one thing I saw over here is that you didn't try to stack the amount of times that the Hammond could have stayed still. You instead kind of like you overlapped his still animations.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. Because I might as well not have pulled anyway, because he would have probably stayed in the same place for just as long.
Yeah, and then if it does look like he might escape, then you can like probably try to use pull for just insurance of making sure you're actually killing him, you know?
Gotcha.
Missy.
Pulling main.
Where's the Pharah? Behind
She's
us.
down main. Supercharge
No.
ready soon.
Another technique you could do with Orisa over here is, so Orisa barrier, if you were to basically if you were to look up right now, you could like shoot your Orisa barrier upwards, and then like for around I think 6 to 7 seconds, I can't remember specifically what it was, but like 6 maybe to 8 seconds, your Orisa barrier will travel up in the air and fly directly straight down, giving you another shield. And meanwhile, while that shield is up in the air, flying up and flying downwards, you'll be
Mm.
recharging another shield, and once this shield goes down, not only will you have like a shield just ready for like deploy. Well, not only will it deploy automatically, but then this shield will also be off cooldown. So I feel like you had room for this, however, you just didn't go for it.
Yeah, because I know of that tech, but I haven't really used it because I didn't understand when to use it, if you know what I mean. So when should you use that particular ability? When you have time, let's say in step 1, I suppose, opposed to step 2 or 3?
So it's interesting of how you would like. It's interesting the time window of basically when you would deploy the shield. So I'm just gonna make some time markers of phase 1, 2, and 3. So this will be phase 1, this will be phase 2, and this will be phase 3. Right now, you were kind of like you're honestly at the end of phase 3 and going into the phase where the enemy is grouping, and you're slowly about to get into phase 1. So right before you just kind of get into phase 1, like probably 8 seconds or 6 seconds before phase 1 starts, and you start seeing the enemy engage onto you, is when you basically throw out your shield, because you're gonna want to, because first off, like, you are playing behind cover over here, so this wouldn't be a bad time to shield at all, because say for instance your shield does go down over here, you can retreat behind this cover, and you could also throw, and by the time your shield kind of comes down, your shield will have already deployed, so even if like your shield might be just a little bit late, you could have cover behind here, but if your shield hits perfect, but if you time this correctly, your second shield should like land at the point once you engage the enemy here. Like that's when you want to like kind of throw it. It's like it's in between the end of third fight and before first fight. End of third phase before first phase.
Maybe hook specifically for fair, by the way.
I have it. Okay.
Walking backwards, he's reaping
Roadhog's
us.
going right.
I was a little too passive there. I felt like you could have like played some. You could have played a lot more pressure over there, by just basically playing aggressive, trying to get more damage out, trying to get pulls. So you even had a pull right over here too. You should have like once you had pull and you saw enemies like pushing onto you. Like look at like that one hog who went behind corner over there. You could have easily like punished him by saying, "Hey, hog, I'm going for pull. Hey hog, I'm going for pull. You go for hook."
That's right.
Okay.
You would have gotten it back quickly, but you play a little more passive. You play unnecessarily passive here and kind of miss out on the opportunity to have punished the hog for a pick.
Yeah, because I know when I play, so my thought process with Orisa is it's kind of like stepping forward and stepping back. So I always imagine in my head, like, and the reason why that rotation happened in my head was because I saw him pushing onto me, and I would have thought to myself, cool, he's going to still keep pushing onto me. So if I make the decision to go back early, if he tries to push me still, I've created even more distance for me to do that against him and get potentially more poke damage than him, blah, 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 and hopefully kill him before he gets to me again. But I do know when I do play Orisa, I always feel like I am playing too passively because I have that forward and backwards mindset. So what would you say then? Like, first of all, is that thought process a valid thought process to have? And if it's not, or if it is, what elements should I take from it? And if it's not, what elements should I add to my thought process to make me better?
Pretty much what I see from this is whether if your decision was good or bad. So one piece of analysis we can do over here is now start analyzing. Was this decision unnecessary? Could I have gone for an alternate, more aggressive decision at this point? So let's look back at this point over here. Let's analyze why your rotation to play back against the hog was unnecessarily passive, and what you could have done to actually have instead punished the Roadhog and play more aggressive.
Specifically for fair, by
So
the
the
way.
Roadhog has obviously pushed onto you. You have a full barrier.
Okay.
Your barrier is also about to come off cooldown. You could have actually played very aggressive. You could have actually played the pull play. You could have easily went for the pull hook combo at this point and not even had to worry. Like, even if your shield broken and you still like played in this position, you could have easily like used your fortify and then use your halt. But then the compensation you would get is dead hog. You know. Like,
So using Fortify aggressively then?
yeah, you can actually use your fortify aggressively to ensure that you get that pick.
Okay.
It's indirectly, like you're indirectly using your fortify. Like the purpose of using your fortify in this situation specifically is to make sure that you don't get affected by any sort of CC at all, because your shield's definitely gonna break, and you're gonna be too busy trying to pull the hog to have even placed down a second shield, unless you're a multitasking god or something.
Okay.
Then yeah.
So, because I want to like have that thought process in my mind then of how to play Orisa in that situation. So, what should I be telling myself when playing Orisa to recognize situations like this?
So I'm gonna have you analyze this. Do you feel like you can play aggro here? Like I want you to think of an aggressive decision right now, and then tell me what you think would happen because of it in this situation specifically.
So, in terms of now knowing what I know now, or what I was thinking at the time?
Knowing what you know now.
Okay, so in that situation, then, if I wanted to get an early pick in the fight, and the hog was next to me, for me to almost guarantee the halt, for me to get a good angle to halt the roadhog, for my roadhog to get a pick, I could have very easily walked forward, fortified, so that way any CC ability onto be negated, and then as soon as I got the halt back, I then physically walk backwards myself, then deploy my shields. That way I would be in this position now, but having done the hook combo with hopefully a pickup.
Yeah. All right, and see, and what you just did right now is you basically analyzed a situation, and you were thinking of a good decision. You were thinking, could I go for an aggressive decision here? Could I go aggressive against this hog and possibly punish him, or could I possibly like kill this hog? Could I possibly pull a pull combo off of this hog and just like easily win this fight? Like that's the importance of knowing your decisions. Like going back to what I said earlier, it's not about whether you're correct or you're wrong. It's about whether if you're good or bad. Like in this decision, like your decision to back up over here was like mediocre. It wasn't bad because you weren't blundering anything. You weren't doing anything bad that made it bad for your team. You're just basically playing safe. You're just trying to play safe. You're keeping things equal, you know? And but a good decision you could have made here was to punish the hog, like you just said right now. Like that decision, if you went for that, you could, and if you pulled the execution off grade, it pretty much what would happen is that you would have had a shield right over here. Of course, you wouldn't have had your fortify or your halt, but you would have had a dead hog on their side, and that would have been so good for you.
Because the one thing I know is gonna happen with me is step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1's draining as many cooldowns as possible.
Yeah,
now,
you want to get an advantage. You want to make sure you're at a point where you're just like, hey, I'm better than you. I can easily win against you. You know, make things easier for yourself.
So I guess then if I didn't have that mindset to be aggressive, for me, I would have been thinking, cool, burn as many resources as possible, so play back. But then I suppose this is where I need to have that aggressive mindset to recognize, okay, cool, this guy is now out of position, so in order for me to have an advantage, which is a pick advantage, be aggressive, but then recognize when people obviously aren't in position, then to have an advantage in resource management, and then that could be a potential of me to back off to get as many resources out. Is that right in thinking?
If I was to basically start let's do some reverse technology here. Okay, so let's do some reverse engineering. Pretty much, I'm gonna just like give you like a stamp for how deep this goes. So pretty much everything up until this point, like kind of like all the way like how you basically talked about how this aggressive mindset leads all the way to this. All of this is good right here, but the root mindset, this aggressive mindset, it's a little iffy in my opinion. Like, I wasn't saying for you to like you need to have an aggressive mindset. It's about I guess you could say an opportunistic mindset, a planning type of mindset. Because what you want to do here is you want to plan for advantage. You want to like look into this fight and be like, what can I do to give myself a nice advantage? What can I do to what can I do to if like playing aggressive should be a gift to you. That's what I think. Like if you have the ability to play aggressive in this moment, then you play aggressive because this is a gift. Like people will gift the opportunity your enemies will give the opportunity to play aggressive, and sometimes you can take that opportunity, and sometimes you might get a lot of value out of it. And it's not necessarily they're giving you the gift; they're just fucking up, you know. So this
Right.
Roadhog was obviously fucking up, and he thought he could just walk. He thought he could just walk over here, but he was gifting you the opportunity to punish him if you played aggressive.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay. So as a general kind of mindset to have is play aggressively when it's a gift
Yeah,
to
when it's,
you.
yeah, when it's like gifted to you. Like if you can recognize situations, like this situation, for instance, that you can play, that you can like punish people, that you can play aggressive, that you can do more damage, get more picks, then take it. Sometimes you might fuck up on your execution sometimes, and you might accidentally go too aggressive and die, and then your team calls you feeding, and you're just gonna say, oh no, it's just the execution. It's gonna be sometimes the execution, but sometimes you go again, and you just like, and then you like slowly improve your execution as time goes on, and you're just like, hey, I'm actually much better than than before, and then you're like just basically punishing even more people at even better execution.
So let's say a different example here. Same positioning there. Let's say a gift could be Orion who's holding his shield up for far too long.
Mm-hmm.
I see it's about to break, so therefore I'd be aggressive, break the shield with my hog combo, and walk backwards. That kind of thing.
You don't even have
In
to
terms of
walk, you don't even have to walk backwards. You could place your shield forward and take even more space from the Rhine, give yourself more line of sight for your teammates, and just completely decimate his entire back line because you have broken the shield that his team was hiding behind. If you put a shield right in front of your team, if you put a shield right in front of the enemy Reinhardt, not only have you like completely extruded an entire shield that gives your team a line of sight to shoot behind, but that same line of sight is the line of sight that is also exposing the Reinhardt's entire team, Reinhardt included, and then and then your team just decimates the entire team because that Reinhardt thought he had like infinite shield, and then he realized that his shield was broken. His team didn't even know that his shield was gonna break and that they were gonna fall behind, and then you just played aggressive Orisa, and you're just like, are you serious? I just broke your shield, place the shield right there, and then I just took out your entire team. Like that's like one example of recognizing aggression. You don't even have to,
cool.
You don't even have to play backwards. So yeah.
Cool. Understood.
Walking backwards, he's reaping up.
Roadhog's going right side.
Walking backwards.
They're
Shield,
going
new
right.
How long have you been coaching for, by the way? Out of curiosity.
1 month.
Okay. Well, I like your coaching stuff.
Unpaid, by the way.
Attack.
Trying to get paid.
That's good.
Ooh. A little bit scuffed on the awareness there. You tried to look for the you heard dragon, however you didn't have the best. You couldn't like try to walk out of it. You didn't walk out of it as fast. Like by the time you recognized, you already
There's one up.
half.
We're even. Now they're head by one.
I have a question, because I can never know when to use bongo. Again, it's all situational, but like, in terms of, let's say, a default mindset, when should I use bongo?
More like when could you use bongo is the question.
Okay.
Let's analyze this piece then. When could you have used bongo? Did you have bongo like before that time you got? Oh wait, no, let's go even more back. Okay, so you were close to bongo at this point.
Okay.
Walking backwards, he's reaping up.
Roadhog's going right side.
Over here, you could have maybe used bongo, because if the enemy pushed into you and you placed down your shield over here, then it would have forced them to back up, but then you can pull them out, focus that person, then you can get a pick, and then you can push forward and just play brawl.
Walking backwards.
They're
Shield,
going
new
right.
shield.
Over here would...
Having attack.
Okay, over here, the reason... So... Over here was really not a good time to have used bongo, mainly because, one, your entire, first off, the Hammond threw down mines, and you should have immediately recognized that, oh, fuck, this Hammond's, threw mines, around my entire shield, so it's gonna break instantly, so, usually, and default Orisa rules, whenever placing bongo down, is always place your bongo down behind cover, or behind an Orisa shield, so that way, it doesn't get destroyed immediately. However, you ended up placing your bongo down out in the open, out of cover, and it's probably going to get destroyed. And you weren't even in a position where you could have even played aggressive at this point. Right now, you're kind of in the position where you need to negate as much of the enemy's potential as possible by like trying to play around their aggression and just trying to weave in and bob in just around their ultimates and their damage and etc. And then trying to like counterattack with like, and then you can maybe like counterattack by then throwing down your shield and then throwing down your bongo and then putting damage into them. Like, that's the time you could use bongo. That's the time you could have used bongo. Let's say, for instance, you didn't use your bongo in a situation. You managed to get out of this dragon, and you placed your shield down, and then you could have used bongo. You would have had cover. Your bongo would have had cover. You would have been pocketed by your bongo, so you could have done damage for your team. That's the time where you could have used bongo. It was a little mistimed there. Like, it's very hard to kind of, like, say that you could have pulled this off. In my opinion, you shouldn't have bongoed at all because your chances of dying here were just too high.
There's one up. We're even. Nah, they head by one.
I think later in this VOD we'll find some more situations of where we could have found better times to use bongo. So
if you can pick her up
when the opportunity presents itself to us, we shall capitalize.
I can touch the point.
I'm in position.
I will touch.
You're going for a retake here.
I will touch. I will touch.
We all just touch.
I am point.
Oof. You guys look so like lost. You're like, do we touch? Do we not? Do we go back?
Go then, let's go.
It's so hilarious. Oh, you guys do.
Pharaoh's low, hotel. Reaper no rage. Reaper.
Reaper attack.
Yeah, that's not a bad pull. Trying to create distance between you and the enemy, especially if it's against a hog and a reaper. This is good.
Good touch.
Plus, you also pulled them too, so it made it easier for your team to kill. That's always good.
Nice.
Good D.
You can push.
Okay, no need to push anymore.
They might rest.
Actually, you don't really. Actually, your team probably still could push.
No, but they've not used
The ththing you just don't want to do when pushing is die.
barrage
They
yet.
use
A hook
barrage
needs to
yet.
be
Never push,
No, they haven't.
never push to die.
have
Always
barrage.
push to get value.
We'll try to hack her.
Dora's coming.
If you can keep pushing and keep getting more value without dying, then go for it. If
Okay.
you die, that's just your fault because you didn't recognize when you pull out.
Hold back, soldier.
I'm here left side. Remember, save your hook.
Farah is low.
There is somebody here.
Tracer's coming.
Actually, no, that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad
left
reload because then there's nobody in your line.
I'm in the corner, hotel.
Oh, but I don't like this rotation
Corner.
either.
Reaper right side has gone out.
It's way too past. Your shield's not on the point, so now if people were to walk on the point, you would have to walk past your shield just to contest the point. I would have kept part of. I would have captured us. I would have contested at least a small part of the point, so that way
Tracer's behind.
Yeah.
Farah will ult. She's behind.
I think my thought process there. The reason why I backed out is because I think I saw Hog going on the left-hand side. For me personally, the last thing I want to do is stand not in the middle of the point, but where I was beforehand, which means that I'm exposed on the left-hand side. But then again, is that really my responsibility? It should be the DPS's responsibility, or someone else's responsibility to deal with the high ground.
It's not really it's your responsibility if you have the power. If you do not have the power against the high ground, then it is not your responsibility, because if you already have different responsibilities as a player, it is not your responsibility to do these other things about like high ground and stuff, because you're already occupied taking care of one thing. You're one player. You're not two players. You can't take care of two things at the same time. So this is where. So since you're Orisa, you only have a pull. It's best not used on the high ground unless you're like a fucking clutch pull god. You're best just basically focusing on the point right now and just trying to contest and just dealing with anybody who's on your level, floor level.
Okay.
You try to invest any sort of time towards the high ground. You're only weakening you're only weakening your current job, which is trying to contest the point. This is very important in knowing your role, especially as Reinhardt, because I will see Reinhardt sometimes going on these long-ass flanks and just going all over the fucking map, and then their team is like, where the fuck is the Reinhardt? Why is he not frontlining? You see your team, teams could be using Reinhardt's there. And this is the reason why I said your shield is bad. You actually were forced to use Fortify here just to contest the point. Oh wait, were you? Oh no, that was just you basically being too scared again.
Yeah.
But you placed your shield even more back. Oh, that's so horrible. Oh my god, I like how you're literally pushing the responsibility of contesting point to your soldier player. Now he's just over here just like, fuck, I have to deal with a Hanzo and kill him, and I gotta contest point too? I gotta use my heal station? What the fuck?
She's discorded.
She's
I'm on her,
high.
I'm on her.
High ground.
And then your soldier, and then if you die here, then your soldier's gonna be like, why the fuck is my teammate so trash? I'm doing all this. Okay, but to be fair, you did die by an ult.
Lucky.
Power attack.
Your soldier's trying so hard here. He contests
Nah, that's
point,
unlucky.
he tries to get 2 ticks, but then he dies.
I couldn't.
So, yeah.
So in that point there, obviously, the main tank determines where things should be, right?
No.
So, oh no. Go on.
Continue though.
Yeah. So my thought was the main tank determines where the team should be positioned to take fights. So from where I was looking there, my thought process looking at that particular incident would be, why is Soldier so far forward? He should be backing off with me. But is that actually because of the fact that I was playing too passive?
Or maybe something else.
Yeah, because for me, it looked like the soldier was, well, I'm trying to find a better word, but for me, the soldier was throwing,
I got it.
looking where I was.
Yeah, like you were wondering,
You know what I mean?
why is it, yeah, you weren't like on the same page with your soldier. You were like wondering, why is this soldier playing so far out? Why is he doing all of this? And you're like playing back here. And that's because, like I said before, the soldier's trying to contest point. He's trying to take duels out at front. The soldier doesn't intend to die at front. So kind of like, while you are main tank and you do kind of determine where your team does play, you're not a controller. That's the thing. As a main tank, you're not a controller of your teammates. You're not the commander. You're the enabler. You're the person who gives your teammates options. You give them, as an Orisa, you give them options to play aggressive in the front line. As a Reinhardt, you give them options to play aggressive in the front line. As a Winston, you give them options to play this high ground without possibly getting shot by a Widow player. That's how you as a main tank do. You enable your teammates and give them space by some sort of action that you pull off and affect the enemy team somehow and just make it tough for the enemy team to do what they want, because you're making space and you're making space space for your teammates by giving your teammates better options. Like you're making some aggressive options for your teammates more safer. So yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean. Yeah, so if you placed your shield aggressively on that point over there, I think what your team could have done is they, while the enemies were going to try and flank you at the back, that would have probably allowed your soldier to play behind shield just a little bit more, because then he could have taken a duel with the Hanzo, but then be behind the shield. Like he would have been, so instead of like only having the option of dueling Hanzo out in the front with no cover at all, he would have had the option to play behind the shield and still duel a Hanzo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a decent hold though, almost overtime. That's okay.
You can hold the corner. They've got one.
Ooh, let's see what you got for ultimates here. You're over halfway to your ultimate, so
Okay.
our
I'll punch for free, so
opportunity
stay on
to
close.
analyze whether you could use ult here or
Tell me,
not
hey, guys.
is going to be coming soon.
Yeah. Solo tank, solo heal.
They have a lot of poke themselves though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've got a shield. Ours is better. Don't worry. Reaper's on.
What is Reaper doing? I also heard. Okay, did you? I heard like footsteps, and I was like wondering, oh shit, someone's nearby. I didn't even know they had a McCree. I thought that was a soldier footstep. And
We hit.
how did you not die? Damn, this
We hit.
Hanzo's been looking at you. My God, that Hanzo took 3 seconds to react to your fat ass. If that was me, I would have headshot you, and you would have died because I would have even been damage boosted.
McCree's here and McCree's here.
So, kind of both mistakes coming from you and the Hanzo. You didn't react fast enough, and you would have died, like, if anything, yeah, you gotta react faster. Because you didn't play the cover that much.
That's it.
Mercy's one.
I got the pushing forward. Reaper behind.
My bad.